Hey everybody, welcome to Inside Microsoft Teams. I'm your host, Stephen Rose. This week has been an amazing week because it was Ignite. First of all, awesome to see so many of you in person again after the pandemic and all this. It was great. So many great tweets, so many great sessions, so much great information. So I thought there was nobody better than the Barney to my Fred, than the Felix to my Oscar, than the peanut butter to my chocolate, Mr. Jeremy Chapman from Microsoft Mechanics. How are you, my good friend?
Good. Just to put it out there, we're not the same person as some people sometimes have thought in the past. So, yes.
No.
Yeah, I don't have.
We
I don't
look
have
a
the
lot
good
alike. Yeah, it's similar, but we are definitely separate people, and we're on here at the same time. It's not an AI thing. But
Exactly.
we thought it'd be great to sit down and I'd cover some of what the big announcements were in Teams, and Jeremy for kind of the whole rest of all the deep dive stuff that happened this week, all the really great announcements. Let me ask you, Jeremy, what was your overall sort of impression of Ignite this year?
It was a big year. There were lots of announcements. I think the cool thing is just being back in person again with the event and an actual, live in-person experience as well. Still a lot of the best of, what's happening digital, and for mechanics, we had really content across Azure, Windows 365, the Microsoft 365 services, data and AI, Power Platform, and also the Surface event was the same day as Ignite this year. So doing that too, that was a pretty action-packed, 48 hours of time for Surface plus Ignite.
As Spock would say, sauce for the goose. Yes, absolutely. So without further ado, let's get to it. So let's talk about some features that are coming to everyone. The first one, folks have been asking for this for ages. And although we talk about, Outlook, you should be doing more things in Outlook, more in Teams, less in Outlook if you're working on projects. We are bringing chat to Outlook. So there it is right up there, little chat button. This is Outlook on the web. I don't know when it's going to come to Outlook on desktop, but we're going to have that, and it's cool. So basically, as you're working, you can go up, you can see those chats, you can respond to those chats right here inside of Teams. So that's great. The other thing that we're going to be doing is this work hours and location hybrid presence. So when you're actually creating something, you can actually say, these are the days I expect to be in the office. These are the days that I'm going to be remote, so that when people are setting up appointments or meetings or just want to be in the office, they can see, are you going to be there or not? Which really makes it great to know, hey, these are the days that I want to optimize to be in the office and to go visit people. And if you're sharing calendars with people, they're going to be able to see it. For channels, we're doing a lot of stuff that folks have, again, been asking for. First of all, putting that start post way up at the top rather than at the bottom, making it easier for you to, when you go to do a reply, to be able to post, to be able to say, hey, I want to pop that window out. So that's one. When can we pop out channel chat? Great, we're allowing you to do that. You can pin those chats both for yourself and to the group within the channel. So lots of things that we're doing there to make it easier, to make it more graphical, to bring in some of the things that we've had in SharePoint for a while and brought that together. And then a schedule send. I love this. When you're working with somebody who's in a different time zone, you're able to say, hey, when you send this, to say, look, this person doesn't get on till 10 o'clock in the morning in their time zone. So I'm going to wait to send this. So you're not sending them an email at like 2 a.m., which is awesome. And I love that as we start to take a look at people's work hours. So we're not pinging people at weird hours. And when folks get up, they're not dealing with 300 messages that are sitting in their inbox. Now, the big one was Teams Premium. Jeremy, any specific thoughts on Teams Premium and the announcement this week?
No, I think everything that's part of what you just showed is great, because it's really it's like peanut butter and jelly, bringing the best two things together, where you've got the messaging kind of components coming into basically Outlook and being able to do chat, and then you've got some of the things like the scheduled send that's coming to Teams. I think it's a really great way to kind of merge those two worlds together. With Premium, I love all the work that's being done in terms of infusing things like more intelligence and AI into the process for things like meeting organizers. So I think this is pretty exciting in terms of having those additional capabilities for the people, especially that are kind of constructing and organizing those meetings.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great. The good thing is you're not really losing anything if you don't have Teams Premium. First of all, Teams Premium is an add-on. Doesn't matter whether you have E3, E5. Teams Premium is going to be an add-on, so it'll be extra. It's about $10 a seat, but for those of you who deal with Microsoft licensing, that's a weird Fuji number that can go up and down depending on how many seats you have and things along that line. But it really breaks down into 3 areas: personalization, intelligence, and security. So what are some of the key features? I love intelligent recap. Right now, if you miss a meeting, you have to go into the video, type in your name or type in the topic of what it is that you're looking for and search for it and take it out. What intelligent recap is going to do is it's going to go further. It's going to say, hey, I missed a meeting. What's the meeting recap? It'll not only show you the recording, but it will show every time that you were mentioned, anytime that a project you're working on was mentioned, automatically create action items and to-dos and things like that to accept, so you can miss meetings and you can get right into what's important and see what you missed, which is going to make it much easier, especially if you're on vacation or have multiple meetings at the same time. Advanced meeting protection. This one's huge. What they brought in are features like watermarking. So for example, the way I like to think about it is if you were to do meetings in a locked, secure room and only allow a few people in, this allows you to do it. So you could say, first of all, this meeting is internal only. No one from the outside is going to be able to get in. Nobody can bypass the lobby. This is going to be recorded. It'll automatically add a watermark to this. So if somebody grabs a screenshot or even grabs a photograph using a camera, it's going to have a unique watermark and an end-to-end encryption code for every single meeting. So for engineering teams, for marketing teams, when you're dealing with things where if it gets out, it could create issues, this is really going to allow you to have a great level of security in meetings. Jeremy, I know you're a big security guy. Any thoughts on what we're doing here?
Yeah, this is critical, especially if you've got someone, maybe who inadvertently gets a meeting invite and shouldn't be there, etc. These are the kind of things where you can enforce that the right people are on the call and that all the content is protected. So I think this is going to be a pretty important one, depending on the industry that you're in, or the risk that you're willing to take on for some of these things. Now you can obliterate a lot of that risk using capabilities like this.
Yeah, I see a lot of ad agencies, law firms, things like that using this. I think it could be great. For webinars, we added a registration wait list. So if you're creating a webinar, you can now do that. Manual approvals on who gets in, who doesn't. Beyond that, automatic reminder emails to let folks know when your webinar is coming up, a virtual green room, and much better control over what your attendees see during the event, which is great. So you have a lot more control on exactly what you're seeing here, and that's something that folks are asking for, as well as that ability to really personalize your webinars. And that's the other thing is, not only can you do things much more easily, like, hey, who can go past the lobby or policies that you want to do during meetings, sensitivity labels, things along that line that are much lower levels of security, but offer some convenience. You can also set up templates that say every HR meeting has to follow this template of rules on who can get in, who can't, and it's a different template for sales. So you can actually templatize these sort of security policies, and that's really, really cool. So for Teams, we added a lot of features that folks asked for. This is only some of it. If you go off to Tech Community, there's a What's New in Teams Ignite Edition blog that will list all of the features. But I really want to focus in on first the stuff that folks have been asking for. We now have pop-out, so when you're in a Teams meeting, you can pop out your content into a separate window, which I love, so you can make it big and see it far more easily. We, of course, talked about the mesh avatars that are coming out. Sergeant Dan, I ain't got no legs. But there are some really great uses for it, and I'm excited to see how folks talk about it. But Teams Premium, between the security features, between the intelligence features that are coming in, and the ability to add your own personal branding to meetings, webcasts, all that, it's a lot of stuff that folks have been asking for, and I'm excited that they're going to be able to start previewing this stuff in the next month or two. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to say, like, all of the updates that you've shown there are going to be really helpful. Like I said, really bringing a lot of the technology areas together between email and chat messaging, all the meeting capabilities that are there through Premium, and kind of what you get through security and intelligence. the meeting recaps, like all of that's going to be really awesome to use. So I'm looking forward to doing that, just to save myself a lot of time. I use a lot of Teams meeting recordings as notes, and I think the summarization and a lot of these things are using, really advanced AI underneath to do this type of work. And we're actually doing, building content now on OpenAI and some of the models there with things like Codex and GPT-3. And it's using that type of AI under the covers to do things like summarization that those OpenAI types of models are good for.
Yeah, and again, I want to stress, we're not taking anything away. Translation, real-time translation, real-time transcription, all that's going to be there. There is a new feature where you can add a live translator, physical one, that'll be part of premium. You're still going to be able to do webinars. You won't get the green room feature, and you won't get all the customization feature, but you still have that web page. You won't get the real-time analytics, but you'll still be able to find out who attended and did that. So again, we're not taking it away, but we're adding a lot of enhancements for folks who are using those features and are going to find value in it. If you're not using that stuff, you're not really going to be missing out too much, but I think a lot of folks are going to find, once they play with it, are going to love it. So that's it for the big team stuff. There's, like I said, lots of other teams news, but those are I felt were the most impactful ones and the one the audience was asking about. Jeremy, because your scope is much wider than mine, you had a lot of favorite stuff that you heard across all of our announcements. So were you able to boil it down to just 10?
I think I can. But so if you're not familiar with Microsoft Mechanics, you can find us at Microsoft.com/mechanics, which will take you to our YouTube presence. And we also have a lot on social. We're doing TikTok now, which has been fun for this year. But
hang on. I got to share a story. I love Jeremy's TikTok. And it is all about with TikTok being in the right place, right time. But share your Apple one. I love that one. And I used it this week at a hotel, and it helped me to get on the Wi-Fi much quicker. So share that one. And this is just a small sampling of what you'll get when you check out Jeremy's TikTok.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of your phone expects to have an HTTPS connection to the site that you're trying to connect to. So a lot of times when you go and try to connect to a Wi-Fi network, it doesn't actually pass you through to a site that your phone will want to take you to. So by going into your browser and typing captive.apple.com, basically on both sides, whether it's an Android phone, a Windows device, or the side of the hotel or the public Wi-Fi that is looking for the right site, it will see that because pretty much a lot of people are using iOS devices, and it will always direct you to that login page that you're trying to get to that doesn't always come up. So a lot of times you'll be connected and you'll see the little triangle and it looks like there's hope and you've got internet, but you don't get to the last mile handshake to do the actual agreement to terms and the things that public Wi-Fi provider wants you to do, or that hotel Wi-Fi provider wants you to do, and this will get you there. So captive.apple.com is a really good tip.
Yeah. They optimize for mobile, and I found when I'm on, especially when I've connected to a lot of different Wi-Fis because I've been traveling, that's the one when it just keeps spinning and it's not happening. I've done it 3 out of 5 times, gets me right in. So anyways, more like that on Jeremy's channel, so go check it out. Anyways, let's get to what you loved at Ignite.
Yeah, so like I said, Ignite and Surface is fair game for me here, and I'm gonna go a little bit. All of the Teams demos are very nice and they're very user focused. I'm gonna go a bit deeper into some of the things like not all the way to assembly code, but firmware and those types of things, and also some more AI stuff.
All right, roll it. Let's do it.
All right, so in the spirit of a true top 10 list, I've compiled my favorite 10 things over the last kind of 72 hours or so from the Ignite/Surface event. And a lot of these things you will have seen again, mentioned in the keynote. So let me give you what I think are my favorites. And they're not probably going to match yours, but these are things that I'm personally interested in. I'm kind of a nerd if you didn't catch that already. So, confidential VMs. This is something where, by the way, we've encrypted in transit and at rest, and that's kind of expected for virtual machines and things that are running in the cloud. But now we're actually able to offer confidentiality and data encryption while it's in use. And basically what that means is it's using hardware root of trust. So the nice thing is if there ever were to be a vulnerability in a hypervisor and you could get to do a memory dump against some of the other virtual machines that are running, that memory dump is going to be completely encrypted. So that means that even your cloud provider doesn't have to be in your trust boundary, and you have complete confidentiality. So if you've had hesitations to move your VM workloads to the cloud, this will help there. It also helps in another way. So again, if you're trying to overwrite memory, so there's sometimes you overwrite the memory to try to attack the virtual machine and have corrupt memory in its file system. Those writes will fail as well. And then to take this one step further, if you are able to get access to the VM's disk, well, because everything is encrypted with the right keys that are in the hardware root of trust, if it doesn't pass, and if say, normally it will pass and it will provide the keys that it needs to run. If it doesn't pass, and say you overwrite the kind of the VHD snapshot file, that's not going to load as well, because once that VM tries to boot up and grab its key to be able to decrypt the drive and be able to run, that's going to fail. So now with AMD SEV SNMP processors, the EPIC processors, you can use confidential compute at the VM level, and that also gives you confidential compute for containers that are running, because they'll run on VMs, and also Azure container instances. So pretty cool stuff.
And that'll work in AVD as well, Azure Virtual Desktop?
There are AVD options coming for that as well. So
awesome.
So another one, and this is a brand new acronym, and this is if you follow security, and I know we mentioned security with Teams earlier, but Phaser, what is Phaser? Firmware attack surface reduction. So we have something that I read a lot about, which is dynamic root of trust measurement, that I like to talk about at cocktail parties and other places. But now with Surface, basically they've developed their own way to do this called Phaser. So that basically means that we're measuring all of the pre-boot activities that happen, as well as working with secure and trusted boot, so that it does meet that secured core PC certification. And also the SQ3 processors now have Microsoft Pluton, which is another bit of firmware effectively that runs on the ARM processors there in this case, to provide additional protection for secrets, for encryption keys, credentials, those types of things. And of course, I can't go without saying the Surface product line looks amazing. I love the sapphire color. So if you didn't catch this, check out our Surface video.
10 years of Surface this year. Crazy.
10 years. And there's an awesome Liberty variant too. If you're from the UK and know Liberty, there's a really, really cool keyboard and Surface edition for that. All right. So another one. I'm going to go into a bit more of the underpinnings of code here, but there's a new stored procedure in SQL that allows you to call APIs. Before, you had to glue a bunch of that stuff together. There might have been performance or security issues. Now, with normal T-SQL operations, you're able to, for example, in this case, we're calling SP invoke external REST endpoint, because let's say you have an application that wants to call the Azure mapping service, for example. That's something that you can do now. It's brand new. It's something that allows you to work directly from operations that happen in your database to call those external endpoints. So something brand new. Again, a bit lower level, but this unlocks a lot of different scenarios and makes it a lot easier to use SQL. So it gets even better though. Low-code AI. Let's go from writing app with heavy code and something that is the easiest app that you'll ever build, which is off a piece of paper or a sketch. So we showed with Charles Lamana.
I love this demo. This was so cool.
We showed with Charles Lamana how you can build, even like whether it's a whiteboard sketch or digital whiteboard in Teams maybe, or a physical piece of paper like we have a picture of here. I can ingest that into Power Apps. And basically the cool thing is all I have to do is import an image. So I'll go ahead and walk through that process, give it a name. And then once I do that, I can upload my own image file. So I'll navigate here to the event registration sketch JPEG. It already recognizes it's vertical. It's a phone format. So it ingests that in directly, and it actually uses OCR to find all the different field types. I can change them if I need to. This one I'll change to a dropdown. This one I'll change to a toggle. And just with a piece of paper, not only do I create the front end, but I can even create the app backend, a database behind it in Dataverse. So from there, we can change data types if we want to. We can add an email data type so that as we're entering the field, it will actually do validation on the entry. And there we can create our app just with a piece of paper without any code. So we're taking low code to the next level of lowness. And now just, because I had a drop down with a couple different meal selections, I'm a huge fan of chicken pot pie, but we're going to go ahead and add poached salmon and a vegetable salad option as well. And we can also, make sure that our app is working. And to do that, we'll go ahead and launch it and play it. And there you go. From a piece of paper, in just a few seconds, you can make your own apps and Power Apps. It doesn't get much faster and easier than that. But it does get better, because that was something, by the way, that we announced at Build. So this is something brand new that we just announced this week that's using natural language to create Power Automate flows. So now, if you want to, you can use natural language to describe what you want to do with Power Automate. So I want to send an email every time a new record's uploaded in Dataverse for that event registration. It'll suggest the flow to you. It'll also give you, all the different connections that you need to make. You can then start to fill in some of the optional fields here, like the name of the table that we just created through our paper-derived app. We can give it a subject line, and then we can use basically dynamic content. And I'd like to say this is like mail merge on steroids, where you can not only do kind of the personalization of the mail, but now, because we're in Power Automate, we can attach different workflow items to it if we want to as well. So here we've added email that's coming from that Dataverse table from our app, and we can personalize it with a full name and a brief message. Now, every time somebody uses the app, they'll get a confirmation using Power Automate, and all I needed was natural language to write it. I didn't need to know that I had to hook into Dataverse and hook into Outlook. It was just there for me.
That's awesome.
So number 6, Content AI. So something that we announced this week, brand new, is Microsoft Syntax. Now, this is something that's using Content AI on the user side as well as the admin side. On the user side, we want to be able to do things like, extract tags, metadata from content, that mountain of content that you work with every day. Also do things like content assembly, translation in bulk, all these different services. And the cool thing is it's going to have a lot of components that are pay as you go. So later, as a developer even, you'll be able to run these types of operations without kind of having an account that is a specific user account, where you're tying it to your app or your process. So here, for example, we're going to do some content assembly. This is one of the many features that we talked about, but let's say we've got some bids in, we want to write a response letter. It's just as simple as going into the response letter and selecting, a different contact name for it. So we're going to go ahead and select Brian Johnson here. It's extracted all that information in a previous step, and it basically creates that letter for you. And you can go even one better. Let's say you've got a bunch of PDFs on file that are different components that you want to merge different clauses from. So we have our kind of standard Contoso processes and policies, and we can even merge an existing PDF file with those standards into this document. So you can create stuff really, really quickly, again, using AI with all the metadata you extracted in previous steps to really create new derivative content as part of that process. And something else I think was really cool that we're all, I think, doing today is the e-signature process. So now you can still use, by the way, Adobe and DocuSign and those other tools to do e-signatures, but we're also adding that later as part of Syntax. So just to show you what that looks like, just like you would normally share, say, a OneDrive file, you can select the type of signature you want and who you're sharing with, and then you just have to put in the signature fields, kind of like you would use other tools today. And now that will manage the signature process for you. And when somebody that you've shared that file with does sign the document, basically what that's going to do is share it right back to the SharePoint or document library where that content is currently sitting with the signature in it. So just a couple of things there on Microsoft Syntax.
That's
pretty
great.
Exciting stuff there. What do you think about that, Stephen?
We just had Adobe on the show to talk about some of that, and it's great to see it get even more automated with the features that we've been showing in Live Sign now. That's part of Adobe Sign, or Acrobat Sign. So there's some really cool stuff. So yeah, Windows 365 apps, one of my favorites.
Definitely another favorite area of both of us. Spent a lot of time in Windows. So this is something, of course, that's going to be huge in terms of making it easier to access your PC. The Windows 365 app that's for accessing your cloud PCs. It gives you all the capabilities that you have in the web client for things like resizing, resetting, renaming your cloud PCs, troubleshooting. You can see we've started a troubleshooting operation here if we want to do that before we call the help desk, for example. But the other thing that we get through this is that it has all of the upside to the remote desktop app. So you can get things like webcam support, multi-monitor, up to 16 monitors if you're crazy, to be able to wire up to your virtual desktop instance. So the app kind of gives you the best of both worlds, all the controls around Windows 365 that you get through the web client, but all of the kind of functionality and the integration with Windows that you get through remote desktop. And you don't have to worry about workspace URLs or anything to get to it. It just works. And it's a seamless experience. And if you've got Azure AD join on your PC that you were installing this on, it will actually do pass-through authentication and just log you straight into your virtual machines and into the app.
So we could do Wall of Fire with WVD, is what you're saying.
We could do Wall of Fire with Windows 365 or with AVD. Like they both are amazing solutions, and they actually we're building more stuff on Azure Virtual Desktop as well. And we've got a bunch of stuff coming out soon for there's a takeoff event for Windows that's happening on the 24th to 27th of this month that we're supporting as well.
Yeah, and that's our good friend Christian Brinkoff. You can check out his stuff as well. He's got tons of great stuff on WVD and what we're doing there. So
he's been a great partner of, I think, both of us, on a lot of our stuff.
Yes, he has.
Okay, so SQL performance. Now, I love a good performance speed up type demo, and that's something that we also did on Mechanics here recently with Bob Ward, who's an amazing presenter and amazing technologist with SQL. So if you're coming from SQL 2016, by the way, it's only been like 5-ish years between the 2016 and 2022 launch. I can do math at 6, but just to show you how much faster things get, 17 times. So we're at 17 seconds right now. And so you can see I've already run a query here in the lower right-hand corner that's at 17 seconds. You can see that we've got around 23 million rows of data. And just by basically, we're going to change the compatibility level of this query. And all we're doing is changing it from 130, which is basically SQL 2016, to 160, and running the query. And check out in the lower right corner, it goes from 17 seconds to 2 seconds. So just by changing that. So then we do one more thing, clustered column store. So we'll change that just to see if we can get that time down even a little tiny bit more. And this is a one-time operation to do a clustered column store index. So we rerun the query, and we'll go from 17 seconds, remember in the beginning, and you will see that it just completes here in exactly 1 second. So with a couple of fixes, without changing your query whatsoever, you can get 17 times faster query performance just by moving from the 2016 engine of SQL to the 2022 one. And that's the same on Azure or anywhere else that you consume there's SQL. So it's pretty cool stuff in terms of the speed ups.
That's awesome.
All right, so Citrix in Windows 365. Hopefully people who are watching this have created Citrix environments and managed them. I've done this on bare metal, so this is the easiest way to get a Citrix environment running with Windows 365, yet still have all of the different policy configs that you're used to from Citrix. And this is something that we're building right now that's coming out pretty soon. So on the Intune side, it is literally one toggle to switch it on. And so this is the toggle here. And you're done. That's it. And there's a bit of work that you do on the Citrix side, of course. But then once the two services are talking, the nice thing is, if you want to search for your users that are Windows 365 users on the Citrix side, it's going to wire them up. So here we're searching for Matt Shadbolt from the Windows 365 team, and it finds them, and we can basically add them to Citrix for the Citrix licensing. So you got that kind of bi-directional feed in terms of licensing and the user accounts. All of the Citrix settings, though, also are in one place. So here I'm just looking for clipboard settings and clipboard redirection, a very common one that you'd use. All that Citrix stuff, you have to dig through the ADMX templates. It's all there. And on the Cloud PC itself, you can also run the Citrix HDX Plus extensions as well, so that all that kind of those user capabilities and functionality, those are part of the experience. And again, this is running on the Windows 365 service. But to someone who's used to using Citrix, and pretty much every time I go to a medical appointment or the doctor, pretty much everybody there is using some Citrix flavor of some sort. They will have the exact same experience, but the PC is running effectively in the Windows 365 cloud. So lots of super cool integration coming to make that transition of where you let your PCs run a lot easier. My second favorite thing, you can run Kubernetes clusters on Windows PCs. I remember when Stephen and I were in Windows, even just kind of like running Linux on a Windows PC was pretty exotic. But now Kubernetes, it's cloud native architecture for your workloads. Now, if you want to, on a Windows 10 or Windows 11 PC, you can run Azure Arc and you can run a Kubernetes cluster. This is brand new as of this Ignite. So here you can see the top one. We have basically our AKS IoT device, which is a Windows 11 machine in this case, that's running our cluster. So let's say you've got a greengrocer and you've got things that you're selling in retail. Now I can put that environment with the catalog on that device, and you'll see in the upper right-hand corner that is my local, the 192.168 IP address.
Yeah.
That's the local device running Windows 11 with a Kubernetes AKS cluster on it. So I can deploy my apps straight to that device and run them in my local stores, or I can run them in the cloud, or both, or do dev tests in the cloud. You've got ultimate flexibility now. So pretty neat stuff. And my favorite thing, I think, for the week. So let me go ahead and show you my number one. And I would say that is the Surface Neural Processing Unit, or NPU.
This is really cool. I was chatting with Frank Buchholz about this, and this is really neat.
Yeah, so the Surface, the NPU, we've had it in the Surface Pro X, but now it's more powerful. 15 trillion operations per second, or TOPS if you're in the biz. It does some amazing things. It will do automatic framing. It will do background blur bokeh effect with kind of, and you'll see that I'll show Stevie in a second, and he's got one of the hardest haircuts to do background blur with, which is curly long hair. And it does a great job, just like a low aperture lens, kind of like I'm using on a physical camera now, but it'll do that right from the device. And as we're working with Dave Mitchell, he was using this device the entire time as we're building out all of, the show for Surface Pro 9 and all the stuff that we did there.
Right. And then inside of Teams, you add, the features we've added there. That's just going to compound just to make it even better with the noise cancellation.
So just to show you what it looks like. And then there's one other capability here, which is basically the voice focus, which will basically block out background noises, all processed by the NPU, along with the background blur, eye contact, and automatic framing that can happen concurrently on the same device. So just to show you what that looks like, we've got Stevie Batish here.
Let me bring my leaf blower in here. So I brought my hairdryer instead. And with voice focus turned on, can't hear it.
So one of the best product launches I think that we've had in terms of Surface Pro 9. I'm loving it. I'm loving the NPU. It was a great moment on the 12th in the morning, just being able to show all of that stuff. So
it was very Nick Cagey Con Air. I agree 100%. Plus, I think when you add, the stuff that's been there along with the features we've added to Teams around noise cancellation, you're really looking at the perfect device if you're in construction or things along that line. With that 5G, it's really going to give you something you're not going to get from any other device out there. So exciting stuff.
It is the best. I think it's one of the best expressions of using Microsoft 365. If you are mobile, working from home, yeah, you have cellular connectivity with it, and all of the neural processing unit power as part of it. So pretty exciting, that device. Again, you can find everything that I showed in its full length and all the other demos around it at Microsoft.com/mechanics to learn more.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to see you and get a chance to hang out with you and share stuff. Jeremy's Mechanic Show has been around for, God, how long now? How many seasons are you now?
We started in 2012, and it was all about trying to talk, how we can get Office 365 apps running at the time on local devices. And it wasn't always through the browser, and it could work offline and all those things. Since then, obviously, everybody knows how kind of that works from behind the scenes. So then it grew out into the rest of the company, basically everything except for Xbox, as I like to say, anything that's commercial, we do on Mechanics. So you can check us out. And we also are on Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram as well.
All right. So with that, that's our Ignite wrap up. Tons of great stuff. We're going to put up a screen here. Obviously, check out Jeremy and all the great stuff that he does. Check out the What's New in Teams blog. Check out the on-demand session that I did with 9 MVPs doing their favorite demo of their favorite feature from the past year, all in 40 minutes. And the Book of News, which will tell you everything that was covered at Ignite. I want to thank my guest, Jeremy Chapman, for taking time out of his busy schedule to be on the show. Always great. And we will see you on our next episode of Inside Microsoft Teams. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And we look forward to hearing and seeing from you all soon. Take care.